I was just down in Austin, and every parent that I talked to that sent their kid to Alpha School, they raved about how great it was. That's not generally what I hear from most parents. So tell me, how is Alpha School different than normal school?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, just on that note, that makes Alpha different is one of the commitments that Alpha makes to every student, which is that they will love school, and not as a result of going to school, but as a sort of prerequisite for making sure that they are motivated and engaged and able to, engage with the academic piece of the day, and then also have the time back to be able to explore their passions and learn life skills that are valuable, both in school and out of school and for the rest of your life. And they take that very, very, very seriously. The guides for the kids, it is their primary responsibility, or among their primary responsibilities, to make sure that that's the case.
Just talk me through the average day at Alpha School. Like, how is it different than normal school? What do the kids do? What do they study? Just talk me through all that stuff.
I guess I should start at the beginning, which is the key fundamental differences with Alpha School, which is that it's based on an AI backed um, platform that essentially allows kids to crush their academics in 2 hours in the morning. And that opens up the rest of the day to be able to spend time developing life skills, trying out new things, exploring, discovering their passions from a very young age, all the way from kindergarten on. So a typical day starts with what we call a limitless launch. And it's based on the idea that every kid at Alpha School is truly, and every kid truly is limitless if they're given the proper tools to be able to engage with what they're doing and be fully present for their academic studies and fully present for everything in the afternoon. So the limitless launch in the morning is when our teachers, which we call guides, are essentially group up with the kids, and there are a lot of high fives, and there's an intentional shift in mindset to a growth mindset in the morning, setting a growth mindset for the day. It's a really cool, high energy, physical piece of the day that kind of gets the kids to get the willies out and really be ready for the day ahead. And then they go straight from there into their academic period of the day, which again is where they interact with our AI platform that essentially meets each kid where they are in every subject. So if you're a little bit ahead in math or a little bit behind in reading, the kids are assessed when they go in, and the AI tool essentially sorts those curriculum individually for each kid. And then they spend about 25 minutes on each of the core subjects, which are math, reading, language, and science. And with little breaks in between, again, just to get up and move around and stretch and make sure that they can be super focused for the time that they're there. And then from there, we have time for lunch. There's a bunch of unstructured time in the middle of the day as well. Again, just to allow kids to have the freedom to be, to become self-driven about all they're doing. And then the afternoons are where we have our life skills workshops, and those can take a number of forms. But the primary ones all fall under categories of leadership and teamwork, financial literacy and entrepreneurialism, public speaking and storytelling, socialization and relationship building, and then also resilience and grit. And after the afternoon period of that, the kids have again, gather around for what are called town halls a lot, where, again, basically they're able to discuss how things are going. It's a chance for them to talk about if they'd like to have any changes to rules or to the way their cohort functions. That they have a real agency in that. And then it's also a time to give shout outs to other kids. Hey, I saw you doing this awesome thing. And it really allows kids to support other kids and lift them up at the end of the day. So again, it's just having that awesome energy that begins each day and carries through the day and ends each day, and that's sort of where it goes. And then uh, assuming the way the model is built too, it's built so that all of that academic work again is condensed into that 2 hour period in the morning, so that there's no homework after school either. Um, I think as the kids get older and into high school, things get a little more academically intense, of course, but it's always the design is always so that you can get things done in that period in the morning.
So the kids at Alpha School get all their academics done in 2 hours, and as far as I understand, across the board, the kids are basically in the top percentile or top 2% nationally on all these subjects. Yeah, traditional school, you have 6 or 7 hours of school a day. Just go on a little bit deeper on how that is actually possible, because it's kind of like, hey, you're telling me my kid can study less and achieve better grades. It's like the magic silver bullet.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that is the magic thing, and I think the it was all based on the understanding that there's just a lot of wasted time in the traditional school day, and there's a lot of sitting around. There's a lot of being lectured at. There's a lot of crowd control. There's a lot of shifting between things, and I think it was being able to crack open this idea that if a child is truly motivated, and this whole system is built on the motivation of the child, and that is where our teachers come in. They will actually sit with every child and come up with a personalized motivational approach for each kid. Some kids are inspired by being able to have a little extra time in the afternoon to do whatever it is that they love doing. One student I know of, that's just bird watching, and that is the thing that unlocks the motivation for that particular kid. For other kids, it's being able to earn things called alphas, which are essentially a currency at Alpha School, and they can save those and spend for items in what's called the Emporium at the school. Or it's just a matter of being able to, sit in a different place in the room if they're able to crush their academics. We found that when kids are properly motivated, it really does only take that small amount of time. And again, with the curriculum being set exactly where their learning point is, where it's challenging but not over their head based on skills they haven't learned before. And it's never too easy either, so that they're just whizzing through and not essentially learning as well. But yeah, it is really incredible to see what kids can do when they have the right framework around the school day.
You talked about motivation. It seems the in-skill currency is maybe as important as the curriculum, as the AI tutoring. Again, just talk me through how you arrived at that. First of all, how you discovered, oh, hey, this could be a big deal for the kids. And then what have you learned about how incentives shape motivation and long-term learning habits? Because I think when a lot of people hear about maybe gamification or paying kids, their mind immediately races to, oh, short-term fix. But in this case, it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah, no, it's something we talk about a lot, in fact, because motivation is so essential to what we do. And I think the better way to think about it is that there are different ways that each of us as individuals are inspired to do something. And if we get inspired to do something and we're engaged, then that's where the magic happens, right? So I think whether it's currency, whether it's time to do something that you really like doing, whether it's being able to, I heard another story about a kid whose special motivational piece was being able to do a Taylor Swift dance, like a 30-second Taylor Swift dance, kind of at will, and that is what got her lit up and got her engaged to be able to say, okay, now I'm going to go do this. And the idea behind all of this is to say, okay, if we have an engaged child who approaches material and then is really into it and learns it and gets through that and continues to excel at each stage of this learning. And when we have these map tests, which is where you were referring to earlier, that the kids do get tested throughout the year to make sure that they're meeting their learning goals, and we see that these amazing numbers come out of that, it creates um, a mentality of success in the kids. We say competence leads to confidence. So, and that happens all through the day, not just with the academics, but in our life skills. A lot of times the workshops will be built around a task or a project that seems impossible at the beginning of it. These are like a second grader running a 5K race, or a kindergartner doing a 5K bike, and these things where parents and students alike at the very beginning are like, how are we going to do this? This seems impossible. And then, by virtue of engagement with the guides and getting like 1% better every day, that sort of atomic habits model, kids find that they're able to find success in each of these things. So whether it's in their academic period and they build a success mentality around that, or it's in the life skills workshops in the afternoon, each of those successes build on the next and the next and the next and the next. And that's where I think, if a love of science comes out of that, it's because they've had a chance to be successful at it over and over and over again. But whatever it is, the way the model works, it creates kids that by the time they're in high school, you can throw a novel problem of any kind at these kids. And rather than being like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or stress out or run away or freeze up, they approach it again and again by saying, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I know that I can do it. And let's figure out how to do it. Let's take this tool. Let's try this tool and tackle this problem. Okay, that didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's try this. Maybe I need to go get some extra resources to figure out how to do this thing. I know where to look because I've done that before too. So again, this is a long-winded answer to your question, but that spark, I think, is what we talk about. And it's whatever it takes on the motivational side at the beginning of that process to be a catalyst for this entire growth of learning. And it all starts with that love of school. It all starts with whatever it is we need to do to unlock that motivation in a kid. So it really is, when you hear the argument about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, it's almost like it's the wrong argument, because it's obviously loving what you do, being engaged in what you do, being passionate about what you do. That's a big part of what the school is all about. And by every measure that we have, there's absolutely no validity to the idea that these ways to get kids motivated initially is not something that unlocks all these other things.
And is it a human that kind of hones in on that individual motivation for the student at the start, and then is that embedded in the AI then, or how does it work?
Yeah, no, it is 100% a human. It's the relationship that the student has with their teacher, and the teacher, that is one of their primary responsibilities, is figuring out what that thing is to unlock that motivation. And sometimes it shifts, and sometimes you have to continually figure that out. So they're always in that mode. When it comes to the AI is really just about creating that individualized learning plan in terms of building a curriculum for each kid. So that's less about the motivation piece. The motivation piece is all human. The AI is really just about assessing the data, and all of this is data in and data out. It's the kind of thing where you can look at a screen at the end of the day and know exactly what your kid has done during that day, like down to the lesson, if you want to dig in that far. And certainly, there are summaries every week, and it allows parents to have a real lens on what kids are doing academically as well too. So there's a lot of value in the way that all works. But again, yeah, the AI is very database for sure.
Talk me through the tech stack at Alpha Skill. Like, how does it stack up against something like, could I, as I have three kids, could I go home and use ChatGPT to create something similar? Just talk me through all the differences.
Yeah, no, great question. So, the tech stack it's ever evolving, and I think the benchmark for what goes into the tech stack is that it has to be the best there is on the market, or otherwise. Obviously, we try to do as much of that homegrown as possible. and have several of the apps that are homegrown. IXL is a great example to talk about as a math app. And for the longest time, that was what was used as part of the tech stack because it was sort of the best or one of the best on the market until we were able to develop something better. And that's sort of the benchmark for all of that. Yes, I mean that you certainly could go ahead and try to do that with ChatGPT and set it up. I think our internal model is more sophisticated than that and looks at more data points and um, you know is able to craft that plan for each kid, that academic plan for each kid. But then I think it's also, there's some sort of alchemy in the guide relationship as well that really helps to, I mean, without that motivation, none of this really works. And in fact, for a long time, for 18 months as we were developing our Alpha Anywhere product, which is a homeschooling part, which is essentially the academic tool in the morning, something you could take to your kids. It was only performing at a one x level, the same as anything else. And the benchmark for the school is 2x. That's one of the commitments as well. So the kids will learn 2x. And so it took a long time. It took 18 months to figure out, or longer, to figure out what it is that they could add into that would create that motivational piece as well. And I think this week was when they just started. They started having some info sessions about it. So they have managed to crack that piece finally too. But it does involve motivation as well. So
How, you obviously have Bloom's Two Sigma problem back in 1984. First of all, do you think you've solved Bloom's Two Sigma problem?
I mean, that's the whole goal. That was, and we talk about that all the time, and the fact that it is that one-on-one instruction that makes all the difference. And certainly the data would support that. Yes, we have cracked that problem. So.
And then how scalable do you think this is? Where I'm going with this, obviously Bloom's Two Sigma was 1-on-1. I believe at Alpha School it's around 5-to-1. With the motivation piece, with the guides are so important as you just laid out. What's the kind of, do you see an upper ceiling to this? Is it 10-to-1? Is it 20-to-1? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, I think we think of the one-on-one as the AI tutor to the student. So that's the one-to-one ratio that we're talking about. In terms of the guide to student ratio, yeah, it varies. It goes about 8-to-1. It goes up to 12-to-1 as we get into sort of the middle grades, and even in high school, it can extend up to 15-to-1 even. But that's also part of the model as well. By high school, kids are very, very independent, very self-driven, very self-motivated. The guides remain an essential piece of all of that, as sort of ongoing mentors and coaches, life coaches, kind of thing. So, in terms of the way the model is set up, I think the one-to-one AI tutor to student is the thing that has no scalable top ceiling, I guess I would say. And then, beyond that, in terms of setting up the actual schools, that's what we're out there doing right now, is to really kind of follow the interest that we have gotten from places around the country. And, at the same time, the main thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is maintaining that quality, the same quality that you get at Austin or at Miami, where we have a school as well. And so everything is centralized. The guides are all trained in the same way. There's a lot of that, coming back to Austin also. So, as we expand, the number one thing is just to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is the same or better quality than we have in the existing schools already.
I have a friend. I live out in Abu Dhabi, and I have a friend. I have a friend from Cape Town asking, when is it going to come to Cape Town?
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely. I mean, there's all kinds of exploration going on, and expanding internationally is certainly something that is discussed often. It's something that is certainly on everyone's radar, and I think there is demand from people that we've talked to sort of all around the world. So it's just a matter of, again, making sure that we can expand as quickly as possible, but without sacrificing even one iota of of it being top quality.
I believe K through 12, the structure provides kids with an extra 9 years of freed up time when you take into to account the 2 hours of
Yeah,
academics a day.
yeah, that's right.
What's the coolest things, the most important things that you've seen kids do with their freed up time so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said before, it starts early. So all of these, being able to experience some of these life skills that you don't normally get in a traditional academic environment from an early age allows kids to just sample all kinds of different things and see what it is. Maybe I like this or maybe I like that. And as they get older, those skills build upon one another. We introduce alphas, for example, with financial literacy very young, and then that kind of scales out to understanding how credit cards work and understanding how businesses work and understanding the fundamentals of entrepreneurialism and all of those just build upon themselves until by high school they have these masterpiece projects that basically are what they are passionate about and have been passionate about and shown great ability and all of that. uh, and they create these projects that are just absolutely incredible. I mean, one student I can think of who was very into theater. She put together her own show that was essentially not even essentially, it was completely done by all teenagers, from the writing and producing and directing and acting, and has been able to put it up to two sold out shows in Manhattan in New York City.
Wow.
And I know she's still moving forward with that. But obviously an endeavor like that requires a multitude of skills, from business sense to leadership and teamwork to being able to understand just the craft itself and how to storytell and be a good writer and all of these things. And that's what I think for me is one of the coolest things is going to Austin and seeing these high school kids in person. They are just lit up. They are very I mean, they're just super present when you talk to them, and you can kind of feel the excitement about what they're doing with every single day. The high school kids, in fact, at the end of this past school year, had a vote to see whether they would keep school open for the summer, and they voted yes, overwhelmingly, just so that they could have the facilities and each other to be able to continue to work on these projects. And I mean, they're just amazing. Another one of my favorites is a kid who was really into biking and built a mountain bike park in Texas that is now the biggest mountain bike park in Texas, and was able to raise something a little over $3 million in order to get that off the ground his senior year of high school. And it continues to be something that he's into at this point as well. But again, it all stemmed from that initial passion, something that he had discovered leading up to that. And again, it takes all sorts of different skills and talents and little individual efforts to get something like that off the ground as well. So it really takes the shape of whatever it is and that all ties all the way back to the very beginning in terms of like, what is it that motivates a kid? What is it that gets them going? That's all part of what we cultivate over the course of the 8 or 12 years, depending on which school you're in, uh, all the way through to graduation.
What do you think is possible in the world? I mean, when this model scales up, because we're talking on the order of dozens or hundreds of kids right now, but when you get to thousands, tens of thousands more, it just seems like these kids are going to have such a head start, and they're going to be able to build things that were unimaginable for kids going through normal school. So, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's one of the things that makes me most excited about being here is just, I think having human beings be able to discover what it is that really makes them tick, like really understand what drives them and what their passions are, and then being able to also cultivate the skills required to get that passion out there into the world. I mean, to me, that's the way you change the world for the better. If you have people who are deeply engaged in what they're doing and love what they're doing, and creating something of value for the world around them, I mean that's kind of the key to everything. So the more that we can, the more that we can instill that in as many kids as a part of our educational system as possible, I mean that to me is the ultimate goal for sure.
It seems like Alpha School instills problem solving and agency into the kids. What other skills do you think will rise in status going forward in the era of, AI can do all the market analysis for you and can do all these things? What do you think are the most important skills to basically teach the
Yeah,
kids going forward?
sure. I mean, I think for me, well, I mean, we'll talk about the AI for a second too. I mean, I think having the fundamental skills of being able to critically think and to be able to evaluate what AI is doing and what AI output, whether it's good or bad, being able to understand like writing that you see, whether it's good or bad, is an essential part of being able to utilize generative AI technology, for example. In terms of in terms of sorry, say that question one more time. You just
Yeah,
you,
just basically, it seems like Alpha really teaches the kids problem solving and agency.
oh
What
yeah,
what
oh
are
the
those?
other skills. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so in it, so that was my first point. So it was just with the AI itself, but beyond that, I think that socialization, I think that relationship building, some of these really core human, skills that are actually cultivated at Alpha, will be more important than ever. I think we as human beings need to be able to understand how to communicate with one another. We need to understand how to work together, and we need to understand how to, in endeavors like this, to be leaders as well. So that they're all the skills are sort of kind of tied in there. And then I also think the other, potentially one of the very most important things is grit and resilience, being able to, take something difficult in front of you and not give up. I mean, that is sort of the common denominator for success in so many different aspects of the way that we live our lives. So, and that's something that is, again, it's instilled from a super young age and it's practiced over and over and over and over again to where it becomes sort of second nature. And that, especially in a world where, who knows what the world is going to look like in 10 years or 5 years, being able to have that sort of problem solving, that tenacity and willingness to push forward with things, being able to communicate well with others, like those are all preparing kids to be ready for whatever it is that comes around.
Have you done any studies or have any data on how, kids with specific learning disabilities like dyslexia or whatever, how they can use these tools? Does it differ in any way?
Yeah, for sure. So we talk about it all the time, and I think one of the most important things is that the model itself lends itself to an individualized plan. Being able to have time that you need, different amounts of time is no problem. Being able to have material that meets kids exactly where it is, and again, just the model, the motivational model as well. Being able to have a different space, it's not kids lined up in desks and rows. So all of those things, just from an organic standpoint, we have seen are kind of the first steps in being able to meet kids that have ADHD or that kind of thing. At a place where they are able to be more successful just from the very outset. Um, it definitely, and then I think also just being able to have that teacher that acts in a capacity that is different than a traditional teacher, who is there to support and offer motivation through the whole process, has also proven to be um, really valuable for kids there as well.
A big part of Bloom's Two Sigma problem was obviously the one-on-one tutoring, but a part of that, I believe, was also the mastery learning. How important is it for a student to master a concept before they move on? How do you even measure that? And why is that so rare in normal schools?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's rare. I'll answer that in reverse. I think it's rare in normal schools because you get it at a certain grade level, right? You get a certain set of skill at a certain point in the year at a certain grade, and if you're not there, or if you're not engaged, or if something like COVID hits, it creates holes. And the importance of being able to master a bunch of the fundamental things, especially when it comes to reading or basic math skills. If you miss out on those things, then you're missing out on everything else that is taught as the grades progress and as the curriculum progresses in a traditional school. You can't learn science in eighth grade if you don't know how to read. And so and obviously you can't progress through any sort of higher level mathematics if you don't have the basics down. So that being able to master those concepts before moving on to the next one, that mastery based learning is essential, and it is measured. I mean, to a T. That's back to what I was talking about before. We're able to see down to the individual skill sets that are being worked on by kids through the model. We see when they're able to complete those, and they're not able to move on until they do complete those. So it's definitely measured on a daily basis and tracked according to the map tests as we go, to make sure that there are no gaps or holes there. But by virtue of being able to meet every kid in every subject where they are, then kids are able, and going at 2x, they're able to catch up where they may have deficits, and still be at the same age level, grade level, as they are age wise as well.
Yeah, just talk a little bit more about that catch up, because I feel like when a lot of people hear about alpha schools, oh hey, it's for parents who want to accelerate their kids that already get top grades and want to excel even more. But you could argue it's even more important for kids that might be behind a little bit in subjects, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more common case even is that kids aren't at the same level in every subject across the
Right.
board, is that they do have a staggered sort of approach to it. And yeah, again, the catching up part, that's if someone is behind grade level to begin with, that is the first thing that we tackle, is like, all right, let's get you up to speed, let's get you back to these fundamentals that you haven't learned yet, and make sure that those are absolutely down pat, and then build from there. And by virtue of being able to move as quickly as they can, we've seen kids cover entire grade levels in half a year or less. um, the amount of hours that it takes to get through a full year's curriculum is surprisingly low when you're in some of the middle or lower school elementary school grades. It just, again, it's traditionally spread out over such a long period of time, over the course of a year. If you take the shackles off of that framework, all of a sudden you're able to catch up way faster and able to continue to excel. We see crazy growth even in our 99th percentile kids too. So it does work on both ends of the scale.
If you have a 14, 15, 16-year old kid that's finished high school curriculum, what do they do during those 2 hours of academics going forward? Is it like we move on to college stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, it totally depends. I think that there's a lot of things to spend time on in high school. There's a big part of making sure that kids are prepped for SATs as well. I think the SAT average for this last graduating class was like 1530 or something like that. So pretty high. And then a lot of kids will take APs as well, especially kids that are interested in some of the more elite school, colleges afterwards. So yeah, again, it's really kind of no ceiling on what kids can continue learning. Yeah, and we don't ever find the case that kids get to the end of the 12th grade material and all of a sudden they're just like, okay, now what do we do? Because there's just, I mean, there's no end to what you can learn about anything that you're interested in, basically.
Have you thought about Alpha College? Would you ever build one?
That's a great question. I have not been involved in any conversations recently about that as a possibility, but I do know that there are some institutions around the country, the collegiate institutions, that are looking at building, this academic model into their um, into their curriculum essentially, and certainly has been discussed. We had the dean for the School of Education at Stanford come in to talk, and there's a lot of discussion about how to leverage AI in a way that is not just having kids use ChatGPT and cheat, which they are doing, but being able to truly leverage AI in a way that will be an improvement for education across the board. So those kinds of conversations are going on all the time, just trying to continually move forward with things and see where we can take it.
You mentioned the kids don't get homework earlier. Talk me through the decision to do that. And I feel like when you're selling Alpha Skill to parents, that's maybe number one up the top.
Yeah, no, I think it's a question we get every time I'm out talking to families. And yeah, I mean, the philosophy is really that we want kids to be focused during that time in the morning and want to be able to take data from that morning to say, okay, we're moving at 2x or faster in order to be able to get through academics, be able to build that success mindset in academics. And if you're going home and having to spend 4 hours to catch up on those things, then it kind of invalidates the whole idea or the whole model. So it really is. It's sort of baked in organically to the way that we do things. And so, from that standpoint, there isn't a need for the homework.
How do you think about applying this whole model to tutoring adults?
That is a great question. It's funny, we talk about the things that we talk to so many parents who are like, I wish I could go back and do this, or I wish I could do this now. It's a great question. I mean, I think just personally, I think continuing education for adults is it's what keeps us alive. It's what keeps us moving forward and innovating and coming up with new ideas. There's no particular, specific model that I'm aware of that we've been discussing for adult education just yet. But, I think with the platform and the flexibility that it offers, we're definitely exploring all kinds of different ways to put it into good use. So it's a good idea, Stephen.
Maybe I should come on board. Listen, I mean, I hope Alpha really expands, rapidly, but you're probably on about rolling out dozens, maybe really optimistically hundreds of schools over the next couple of years, where there's thousands of schools in America. Do you feel like there's any adoption or willingness to adopt these tools in traditional schools? And, it seems like from a top-down perspective, that's maybe a lost cause, but, getting these tools like these into the hands of individual tutors from the ground up, do you think that's something that can happen? Where's your head with all that?
No, for sure. I mean, I think the idea is, I mean, adoption of a new way of doing things, especially something that's as ingrained as education is in terms of just the preconceptions that we carry with us, mostly from our own educations, which are 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years behind us. So that adoption thing is real. It definitely, there are people who sort of get it quicker and are ready to try something new. And then there are people who are really need to see more of it in action, need to understand exactly how it works and be able to really dive into to all the things that we're talking about today and also see it in action. So there are initiatives I know where we are looking at getting into public schools and private schools that are not specifically alphas across our country at least, and certainly looking at opportunities to expand globally as well. So it is all something that we believe in. The way that it's working, we believe in just transforming the lives of the kids that are part of the system. It is really what keeps us going.
I know we're gearing towards closing here, Jonathan. I want to address two pushbacks. One pushback I
Sure.
hear is, oh, hey, this is just kids staring at iPads all day. It's going to make them lazy. It's going to turn them into zombies.
Yeah, sure. I guess the easy pushback on that is that it's not that. The academic time is with screens in the morning, but again, as we talked about, it's 25 minute, very concentrated, very engaged learning sessions, and the rest of the time is not in front of screens. It is. There's a lot of physical activity. There's a lot of movement and moving around. There's a lot of working together as teams. We talk about the fact that in the traditional school, there's actually incidents of more screens than we have at Alpha, which is sort of the irony in terms of us being the robot zombie iPad school or whatever. And we talk about the fact also that there's a huge difference between good screen time and bad screen time as well. It's not like kids are doing, when they're on screens, they're academically super engaged and not scrolling through social media or anything. It's all totally directed towards their academics. So that's a pretty easy one. I think it stems probably just from misunderstanding how the system actually works.
The second big pushback I hear is, oh my God, you're going to put all these teachers out of a job. How could you do that?
Yeah, there were headlines, I think, probably a year ago that were basically like the school with no teachers. And, the obvious pushback on that one is that the teachers are what make it all work. Our teachers are world class. They come from so many different backgrounds, education being one of them, of course. But they are all rock stars at what they do, and it's we're definitely not in the business of putting teachers out of business. We're in the business of finding the best educators in the world and putting them to work with our kids. And so I don't, again, I think it's just a misunderstanding of what is actually happening at the schools where that comes from. But yeah, the humans in this equation are absolutely essential, and the beating heart of the schools in a lot of way.
I'm sure parents are going to be listening to this right now and saying, "Oh my God, I want to sign my kid up for Alpha Skill," but they probably live in an area that they might not be. You might not be there yet. What advice would you give them specifically to things to do today? Things they can do to even prep their kids to try to get them ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think part of it is really just motivate. Again, I'll come back to that motivation part is to really find what makes a kid sit up and light up and be engaged. Because it's when kids are bored or they're not applying themselves or not facing new challenges, that's where things sort of start to stagnate. So I think just from a sort of global perspective, being able to really do whatever it is to help kids find what makes them tick, find out what drives them, where their passions lie, and then putting real challenges in front of them, and not underestimating the power of what a kid can do. I think we do that a lot. We put our own limitations on children, and they don't necessarily have those limitations. And you know, shame on us for being the ones who give them that sort of mindset. So I think, yeah, cultivating that sort of growth mindset. We talk a lot about having high standards at Alpha, but also high support, and that's sort of what we refer to as a mentor mindset. So I think it's a good thing for parents to kind of reconsider how we approach our own children and being able to be a part of their growth and education as well.
I have three young kids, and as you probably know too, they're insanely curious. And what I'm hearing from you is that Alpha School and this model of learning is a way to harness that insane curiosity and make them love learning again. So maybe just give us to close here, maybe give us an optimistic vision for the future of education. What's possible in the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's possible is that we can kind of begin reaching kids all across the country and all across the world and be able to give them the time back from the traditional school day to be able to go out there and find these passions and cultivate them and build the skills around those passions that they need in order to be successful in the world. And with a solid core of academic learning as well, that creates critical thinkers, that creates kids who are ready to take novel problems and tackle them without hesitation. Uh, to me, the more that we can get that out there to have kids have the ability to do that, I think the world will step by step become a better place.
Awesome. And Alpha School is in Texas today and Florida. What's on the roadmap for the next, 12 months?
Yeah, so we are, as you said, our flagship is in Austin. We have a school in Miami. We have one in Brownsville, and we're opening up schools in New York and Santa Barbara. We're also opening up in Plano, Texas, and Fort Worth, Texas. As I mentioned earlier, we were in Charlotte and Raleigh and Chantilly, right outside of DC. And then we also have a school in Scottsdale, and we're opening a school in Orange County, just outside of Los Angeles. So that's on the immediate radar. In San Francisco as well. That's the sort of the next big one coming up. And beyond that, we are actively talking to interested, families out there to see where the next spots are going to be. So I would encourage anyone that's listening that doesn't have an alpha in your neighborhood to come to our website and be able to weigh in and tell us where you want us to come next. We'll put it under consideration.
Jonathan, this has been fascinating. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for everything you're doing for education, for the future of learning, and I look forward to chatting soon.